very colorful progression. I'm actually really surprised by this. And some of these bands I'm reviewing, I'm like, why have I slept on them? What's up, guys? Welcome back to Low End University. Today, I'm excited to present an episode from the Patreon archives. I only do full albums these days over on Patreon, and early on I did a few single songs, and I've been meaning to get them here on the channel because here in May 2025, I'm taking some very much needed time off. So I want to present to you my first time hearing Sour Girl from Stone Temple Pilots. That was from their fourth studio album, aptly titled Number 4, released in 1999. This is a band I've largely written off, ignored, for no other reason than I've just never gotten into them. I mean, I've heard Interstate Love Song, Plush on the radio, as I talk about in the episode, but I was just really surprised by how much musicality was in their songwriting. Bassist Robert DeLeo had a really jazzy, forward-thinking approach with his note choices and such, so it's a band I want to come back to and get into. Better late than never. But for now, please enjoy my first time hearing Sour Girl from Stone Temple Pilots. Huh. Don't think I've heard this one.
She turned away, what was she looking at? She was a sour girl the day that she met me. Hey, what are you looking at?
Really good pocket bass line. And you know what's funny? Right out of the gate, these first 30 seconds, I heard some of the same chords as Plush. Some of those progressions, because Plush, and I'm not going to keep referencing Plush the whole song, it's just one of the recent... In fact, it's the only Stone Temple Pilots song I ever learned, so I know that bass line pretty well. But the chord progression for that song is kind of similar in the fact that they have these chromatic things where they're kind of going down by half steps. That kind of thing. And it just has that like Soundgarden-y. Soundgarden's another band that does this a lot. And I like the journey it takes your ear on because you don't really know where it's going to land at any given moment. But I'm going to go ahead and play back these last 15 seconds because the bass part was really effective here. Check it out.
She turned away, what was she looking at? She was a sour girl the day that she met me. Hey, what?
It never stays in one place too long in terms of the bass note. It's not staying on the root. It's kind of establishing the root for a couple beats, and then it kind of goes off and dances around, which is really cool. But an effective thing I'm noticing is that instead of playing those straight eighth driving grooves, kind of just like this, kind of longer, he's adding a lot of separation and bounce to it. It kind of has this more of this. Turn my treble down because you kind of hear that fret noise. Maybe he's palm muting a bit, but the thing that's matching it really well is the hi-hats. The drummer's not opening the hi-hat really big. And that's something you can do as a bass player that gets overlooked a lot. Try to match the way the drummer in your band is playing. If the hi-hat's a little closed, maybe make the notes a little shorter than just being straight open, like when he's riding on a crash cymbal or a ride cymbal that has this freeing, longing thing. I actually talked a lot about this concept in the Red Hot Chili Peppers video I did maybe 6 months ago on YouTube. But if the hi-hat's really closed, match your bass notes to that, because at the end of the day, you're the rhythm section. You have to be on the same page with how you're getting that feel across. Let's keep going. Ooh. Yeah, you can just hear the hi-hat closed amount with the bass note note length. They're just really on the same wavelength there. That B flat right there is really weird. So there's a lot of out of key chords here. And this is, again, I've noticed this in Plush a lot, and I thought they were really smooth. It wasn't like out of left field. And it's hard to make that sound natural. So this group is great at it from what I've heard.
What are you looking at? She was a happy
B flat. Yeah. And that B flat's bizarre because I think we're sort of in D major. They went back to that note a lot. Then they're in F natural. And again, not to get overly complicated with the theory, but I like trying to figure out what they were doing. You know, reverse engineering music is fun for someone like me, but so far so good. Again, he's kind of doing those same things where he plays on the thirds, the fifths. I kind of hear a hits the G just for a second to lock in that chord, goes right up to the major third. So this is a good point of knowing your arpeggios. And in fact, if you're here on Patreon, if you're a junior member, I have my entire music theory course uploaded. It's like 7 hours. If you want to understand arpeggios and thirds and fifths and really how I think when writing a bass line or analyzing it, I mean, everything is laid out in that music theory course. You can find it under the collections tab. Let's keep going. Ooh. I think that was a key change. Oh, that's so smooth. Yeah, right there. It kind of goes back to, you know, that chorus thing here. When it goes back to that D major, it makes me think they keep coming back to that key. So I don't know. Still keeping that same really tight staccato bass note here. Really great for the verses. Kind of a tricky progression, actually. C, G. So the way they go from that B flat right into the G major, you kind of hear that tonal shift because the third in G major is a B natural. So you have just a half step dissonance, not at the same time, but in that same phrase. Very colorful progression. I'm actually really surprised by this. And some of these bands I'm reviewing, I'm like, why have I slept on them? Because I'm forcing myself to listen to them with undivided attention for these videos here on Patreon, YouTube. I'm like, man, I missed out on a lot of music. So this has been a real treat. So thanks for this request. The way that resolves is interesting to me. There's that E flat. This is the part that kind of has the plush vibe to me. Oh, they didn't come back to it. Oh, there it is. That's kind of right out of plush. And I still can't really figure out what the tonal center is. I think they're using out of key chords quite a lot. It comes back in every chorus, but maybe they're just relying on them for that bit of kind of like a little bit of an extra dimension to where your ear might want to go, because as soon as you think it's going to go to the 1 or the 4, the 5, it goes to the out of key chord. I like music like this. I can like really sink my teeth into it. And I might not have an answer for why they're doing it, but I'm certainly noticing it. And I just want to go listen to this band more. Another band I've slept on. Super cool. the vocal harmonies, kind of the cadence, and just going around some of those bizarre chords, very actually kind of has a bit of a Beatles vibe, where the chords that are kind of out of key, whatever's happening in the vocals over that chord sounds like it didn't go out of key. So it's kind of a jazz approach in a way where, this is something I learned studying jazz in college. I went to a jazz school for a couple summers. I don't know if I've talked about this a lot on YouTube. But something someone told me really stuck with me. They more or less said for pop rock, commercial music that's, rock, classic rock, typically the composers will write the chord progression first, and then you come up with a melody over it. So the melody is kind of already in the box of the chords you've laid out. But with jazz, the approach is kind of backwards. You come up with a melody, and then you can really put an infinite amount of chord progressions under it. You can play it a lot of different ways, but the focus is that melody. And the melody is the focus in rock music too, but it's kind of like this melody and this vocal doesn't sound as weird as those chords do under it. And that's typically why some jazz chord progressions are so wild, because it's kind of the last thing to be added. It's the last thing to be added in the sense that how can we make this really quirky and give new meaning and bring new life to the melody we already have when the melody came first. So something I noticed with that chorus here. Catchy. Back to that just driving, slight separation in the bass notes, kind of makes the whole thing bounce. Perfect. And the last thing before the song ends, he's done this the whole song, and I didn't really talk about it much because it is something he did in Plush, but you notice he starts on a phrase. Let's say it's D major, because that is a chord that's been reoccurring. He starts on the third. That is such a weird thing to your ear. And they don't have the bass mix so loud that it might be like, huh? Like it's kind of distracting. But instead of just going to the D chord and playing a D like most bass players do, he starts like the first 2 or 3 notes on the third. He goes. That's such a bizarre approach. I've never really heard anyone else do it this often. In more of this mainstream rock kind of setting. I like that a lot. It's a very unique thing I've noticed, and something I don't think I would have ever noticed had I not learned the bass line for Plush just last month. Really cool. Very neat. Have not heard this song, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Good one. So like a lot of people and young bass players, I grew up reading Bass Player magazine. And, it's funny to say that because a lot of these bands I haven't heard of on YouTube, I get some flack for, but I just truly did not grow up listening to a certain subset of bands and genres. Stone Temple Pilots was surely one of them, but they're played on the radio so much you just couldn't ignore it. But I think the coolest thing is that those magazines and typical music press in general focus so much on the jazz and funk rates. Like Bass Player magazine is sadly not in print anymore. They're more online only. That's been a big thing in the news the last 6 months or whenever that happened. But man, I feel like up until their last day, you would see Jocko on the cover. You would see Stanley Clarke. You'd see something about James Jamerson. It's kind of why I don't cover those guys on my YouTube channel, because for one, they get talked about all the time in bass circles. The bass circles are very behind. They're very much stuck in the past. And I love and respect those players. But there's so many other bass players like Robert from Stone Temple Pilots, the punk guys I'm reviewing on YouTube. You don't see those guys talked about in terms of scholarly bass playing, when in reality, I'm learning they have some of the greatest forward-thinking, effective, brilliant bass lines. And I guess I'm just trying to fly the torch in some way, fly the flag, hold the torch, whatever the phrase is, to just draw some attention to their playing, because we've talked about the jazz greats enough. And it's cool for me to still find a band like Stone Temple Pilots that have forward-thinking bass lines that aren't done in a flashy way. So they might not get that shreddy attention that, you know, music press wants. But this is subtle, effective stuff that's really, really done well. And again, the whole point of my channel with the series I'm doing with analysis videos is to just shed light on players that you don't hear talked about in those circles. So appreciate you guys being here on Patreon. Let me know what you'd like to see next. I love you all, and I'm very grateful you're here. Cheers. We'll see you next time.